right. We actually have a really great crowd. Look at this. This is awesome. Thank you all for staying here for the Psychedelics and Cannabinoid Therapeutics session. My name is Priscilla Goncillio. I'm president of the Cannabinoid Industry Association, one of the sponsors for this event here. I've been in the cannabis space for the last 15 years, and what I'm doing in the psychedelic space, aside from being an activist and an advocate, is a GMP facility for cultivation of medical or medicinal mushrooms, as well as psilocybin when the laws come in place. So that encompasses everything from what we're trying to standardize and isolate products in the psychedelics market to, do you want to? No, okay, everything okay? All right. Got it, okay, thanks. So that we're also trying to provide GMP level products to make into formulations for R&D studies. This is a very interesting market to be part of. The cannabinoid blending into the psychedelic molecules are just one of the hottest topics right now because of, I mean, you're pretty much seeing all this news over around the world about the advancements in the science and studies of psychedelics into this space. So I'm really, really happy to be here. And I wanted to just set the tone a little bit for this conversation that we're going to have. We have some amazing speakers up here. And I'm going to have each one of you introduce yourselves, give a little bit of background and what you're doing in the space, and then we can just have a open conversation, something very casual that we can start to bring up topics and go more and more into depth.
Cool, so I will take the lead. So I am Trey Tiarina, hello. I have, for the past almost 6 years, been focused in the cannabis space. The cannabis and psychedelic space are seemingly overlapping, so a lot of people interested in, let's say, unconventional medicine, we'll call it, or plant medicine, we can call it, are also taking interest in psychedelics, which I am obviously one of those people myself. The past year, I've been diving into a lot of psychedelic research, psychedelic business transitions from a both macro and a micro level. I focus really a lot on the investment part, so I've been paying attention to the investment space and the business aspect of the industry. I think that's an important topic of conversation here on this panel because this is the future of both of these psychedelics and cannabinoid industries. And I think both regulation, how we integrate business and ethics in between in between each other, how does that come to fruition? How does that roll out? So I think those conversations need to be had, and definitely where I'm going to take it forward is hoping that this conversation today enlightens some of you to both get on the activist side, the advocate side, and also the business side as well, because I think all three of those combined will help a new emerging industry flourish, and that's my hope. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Trey. I have this really intense mic, so I don't need yours. Hi, guys. I'm Annie Epley. Geez, where do I even start? I've been in this industry, both psychedelic and cannabis. Of course, we've all been doing this since we were like 12 years old. But where I got my passion was through the Women of Cannabis Conference. For those of you who know, we threw that. Yesterday was the 3-year anniversary, then the conference didn't happen. So when COVID happened, we realized we weren't going to be able to gather 1,000 entrepreneurial women anymore. So we did some soul searching as a team, and our team fell a little bit let some folks go, and we took some new folks on, and we built something so amazing for humanity called Soil to Soul. And it's a retreat base that focuses on getting a human to complete wellness by focusing on your own abilities. And we utilize plant medicine as opposed to pushing pharmaceuticals or something like that in efforts to help breakthroughs and people to get past, just reasons that we're having issues and we don't really know how to fix it. So I'm in wellness, and we facilitate that with plant medicine. So yeah, here you are.
Cool. Awesome, Annie.
Thanks.
Thank you. So my name is Chip Paul. I kind of wear, I would say, 2 hats in this field. I'm an activist. I'm a cannabis activist. My wife and I actually kind of got everything going in Oklahoma. So in 2014, we formed an organization called Oklahomans for Health, and we were the first organization to petition the state of Oklahoma. We weren't successful in 2014, but we turned around and did that again in 2016, and we were successful. I personally wrote that petition, and so I'm the actual author of the law in Oklahoma, but we're still, it's going good. And it's a great situation in Oklahoma, and the nice thing about Oklahoma, that law could have been wrecked. I wrote a great law. Lawmakers could have wrecked that law in 30 seconds right after we passed it, and they didn't. So we have a lot of support in Oklahoma to do a lot of things, but we're starting to socialize this whole psychedelics and small molecule conversation in Oklahoma. And I'll say I'm getting tons of traction with lawmakers. So again, this looks like, frankly, this is something that we could, if we got our act together, introduce in Oklahoma in 2021. We may not have our act together, well enough to do that, but we certainly will introduce a small molecule piece of legislation in Oklahoma in the next 2 years. On the science side of this, why is this important? Let me just do this around PTSD because it's the easiest way to talk about it. So if you're an endocannabinoid patient, I can help your mood. I can help your mood and energy level with a whole herbs, cannabis, a whole bunch of things, right? So if you have mood issues, endocannabinoid therapies are pretty good at fixing mood issues. But if you have something like PTSD where you've been constantly in a fight or flight situation and calm, fight or flight, calm, fight or flight, calm, fight or flight, calm, your brain gets stuck in kind of that action, and so you're either on or off. And all the cannabinoids in the world won't reset that. But there's hard now FDA studies and FDA action around that being reset with things like psychedelics. So.
Ooh, yeah, great. My name's Jordan Jade. I own Jade Healing Co. out of California. I come from the pharmaceutical industry background. I was also a dietitian, so I have a medical background as well. And I cultivate and have been in the cannabis industry for over 10 years. I'm involved now in sales of psilocybin in Oakland, where it's decriminalized. I'm an advocate, and I've also used psilocybin therapeutically for about 15 years, recreationally and therapeutically, specifically for treatment-resistant depression and anxiety, which it's now being explored scientifically in clinically controlled trials. So that's really exciting, and we'll dive more into that.
I'm Charlie. Come from Boulder, Colorado, and own a full-spectrum cannabinoid company there. And I guess I wanted to be on this panel because psychedelics has helped me heal trauma. Past trauma, ancestral trauma, everything linked together, which is really what we are here in the States, mutts, if you will, some of us. But I'm an active member of the Aqueva Native American Church, so I can federally carry medicine, peyote, ayahuasca, mushrooms, and cannabis. And I actively run ceremonies in Boulder, Colorado. People can donate money if they want, they don't have to. But I help a lot of people with lots of different traumas. Don't do much studying on it. Just go with the feeling, guided. We work with the Dene tribes and Navajo tribes. So if you guys ever are interested in or looking for an inlet to real psychedelic medicine, trauma, recoding, restoration, and repair, contact me. My company's Right Mind. I'm on the floor out there in a big tent. I'd love to get into an in-depth conversation about future healing that we all should be seeking.
Mm-hmm.
That's really great. Thank you guys so much for your introductions. As you can tell, there are some amazing, passionate people up here about psychedelics. The main thing that I want everyone to really understand is that you look at cannabis or CBD as, this trend, this market trend that everyone's flocking to. it's the green rush, so on and so forth. But in reality, psychedelics have always been part of that same conversation, because what we're really dealing with is plant medicine, and that's what we're all here for. We're here for plant medicine solutions to synthetics and pharmaceuticals that, traditionally haven't worked, because not everything works for everyone. And the same goes and applies towards psychedelics with other people as well. It may not work for you. So with that, I'd love to get into the next topic of this discussion, and I would love to talk about psilocybin, because that's probably the first thing that's coming up in the psychedelic world. There is ketamine clinics already currently operating, but psilocybin seems to be that next topic that you keep seeing in the news. And why is it? A lot of you, maybe this is your first time hearing about psilocybin and the types of therapies that are going out there. So I would like for you to talk a little bit more about some of the treatments. Jordan?
Okay.
Yeah, if you could talk a little bit more about some of the treatments that you're doing with your company, and how you've been using psilocybin with your clients and patients.
Well, primarily, like I had used it personally. So for, like I said, treatment-resistant depression and anxiety, because like you had said, you can use all the cannabinoids to change your mood, and it'll affect your mood temporarily, but how do you actually reset your nervous system and really heal these more deeper changing your mood, smoking a joint and getting out of that current little situation you're in. So just from my own personal experience, I've had years of depression and anxiety, and medical pharmaceutical treatments were limited effectiveness. The ones that were effective, the efficiency kind of tended to die off or decrease. So for me personally, psilocybin use has been fundamental to changing that mind state of depression and anxiety. So it's been very helpful for me. And there's a lot of studies, clinically controlled studies going on that are showing the same evidence. So similar to, like you said, CBD market, it's a new emerging market, but for the therapeutic uses and purposes of it, how it works in the brain. And I'm sure you guys could all get a little more when you consume psilocybin, your liver changes it into psilocin, and that's what is actually psychoactive, and it gets your brain areas to kind of all network and work together. So parts of the brain that were prior compartmentalized, not really working, they'll start to communicate with each other and make kind of new connections that they didn't make before.
Can I just real
Please,
quick?
yes, please.
So,
yeah.
Everyone
so the
jump in.
best thing about all of this is it's safe. Okay, it's safe. You can't overdose. I mean, you could take too much and have a bad trip and all that, but you can't. You're going to wake up the next day and you'll be the same human you were before, right? So all of this plant-based medicine that we talk about is inherently safe, and that's the big thing, right? But psilocybin works because exactly what she said, psilocin. And the way that it works is it's kind of like a serotonin mimic. So it gives you way more serotonin.
Which is what antidepressants are.
Exactly. And it also is an SSRI inhibitor, which is also what antidepressants are. So it creates this umbrella where you have a lot more time on neuroreceptors, so to speak. And so it gives your brain, if you will, a lot more horsepower that you would normally have.
That's great. Annie, I know that you have treatments that and sessions that you do with women specifically. Could you also go into a little bit more of some of the results that you've seen with psilocybin therapeutics?
Absolutely. I think the first thing I'd like to say is that it's not a one-stop shop. Like, you're not going to have a journey. I call them journeys. Trips were just so like juvenile, I felt like. But, you could have a journey 15, 20 before you get to where you need to get to heal what you need to heal. For me, microdosing is something that we encourage. We want to encourage people to stop taking depressants and mood stabilizers because there's enough of those in our food and water, and start to take responsibility and be intentional about your and dosing and what's best, and it's going to be different. My journey took 37 years. 26 lives. I've lived 26 lives, I have no doubt. 37 years it took me to learn what I needed to learn. And with that, you know, I think the biggest thing is understanding it's not a magic pill. It's not a magic pill. You need to nutrition is huge. I'm glad you said that, because soil to soul, that's what we stand for, is starting to get people back to understand about basically just the things we're eating and drinking that we're told they're good, but we know better, but we do it anyway. We've really got to start being intentional. And right now in this age of the world, it's time to just go home, clean out the cabinets, clean out the mess, and start to teach the new generations what we were lied to about, essentially. So in what we do is we consult with the woman. I love what you said earlier about not doing a lot of studies. We are all light beings, and if you meditate, you're gonna find your gift, and you can help people around you. You can. So I think the biggest thing is just to get people to sit down and be still, so that they're able to receive whatever it is that their soul is ready to go through at that time.
So I want to add one point, because you said it wasn't a one-stop shop, which I agree with, but like I said, there are all these studies and new data and new information coming out. So there was a study done by Johns Hopkins University that they showed that all these participants, they were administered a dose, I think it was 2 grams, had drastically improved their depression, treatment-resistant depression, and anxiety. 6 months later, so this was a one-time dose, 6 months later, 80% of those participants still had the same decreased symptoms.
Do you remember how big the study was?
I believe it was a small study, I think 13 to 15 people. So it was small, but still controlled trial.
There are
sorry.
tons and tons of studies out there. We recommend that you really look into it, dive into those sources, because the data is out there. It's accumulating every single day, and it's happening all around the world. Canada, our neighbor to the north, is doing so much work with psychedelic therapies. And to note a little bit more about what you said, Annie, the point I feel that is very pivotal to really grasp with psychedelic therapeutics is that the control is going back into your own individual hands. And it's about taking control of your health and really exploring and finding out what works for you, not just taking in whatever doctor or practitioner hands you. It's time to awaken and have a whole systems approach when it comes to your health and your wellness and what you teach your family. And that's really what this movement represents, is taking back that control of your own health and trying to find solutions that really work for you. Would you like to talk a little bit more about?
I was gonna just I was gonna ring on that point of the belief where it's like a one-stop shop, maybe like a panacea, if you will. The fact of the matter is, with majority, I would say 95, if not higher percent of these experiences, psychedelic experiences that people are having, a lot of the effectiveness comes from a lot of the deep work that's done during the experience and then after, following up from the experience, all of the work, the emotional work and the psychological work and the physiological work, all of that work that you've got to do post the actual psychedelic experience itself is what contributes to your success and healing. And I also want to put this out there that I heard this and I really cling to it, that we have to stop thinking about healing as binary, right? We're either healed or not healed. We're both sick, or well, I'm saying we're all sick and we're all healthy at the same time. It isn't binary. And so we're all just on this different path of this spectrum that we all lie on within our healing journey. And so I just kind of wanted to put that out there.
Western versus Eastern's healthcare approach. It's binary versus holistic in taking in the mental health, the emotional health, nutrition, kind of all aspects, versus doctors in America are doctors of medicine. So they haven't been trained in psychology and mental health and emotional health and how these things actually affect us physically. They're trained in medicine. So that's why you go and you get a prescription. You aren't going to be offered a therapeutic platform like mushrooms, because unfortunately it's still Schedule 1, similar to cannabis in a lot of states. So yes, we have new emerging data and evidence, but we're still kind of limited on how much we can actually study these just because of those holdbacks.
This is true, and the thing is that I'd like to also say that this may be a new conversation and topic here in North America, or not North America, the United States, but this has been used for thousands of years prior to this conversation today by tribes, by indigenous communities all around the world, which I would love for you to talk a little bit more about your work with the tribes and just touch on the history of what different psychedelics have been used for.
Before we jump that, I would love to just say something really quick. I think in our research, what we saw when it comes to the whole doctor and physician is that most humans trust their pastor and their doctor more than they trust themselves. That's a problem. That's a problem.
That's the paradigm that we need to change.
That is a problem. When my husband passed away 3 years ago in UT Southwestern, 12 neurologists, and none of them knew about the endocannabinoid system. That's the problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wake up, humanity.
Thank you. Well, let's see, the last ceremony we were in, an Inca elder came in from Peru, brought grandfather with him, and had an all-night sit-up around a fire. Each person takes a turn singing healing songs for Mother Earth, because if we don't work on healing Pachamama, Mother Earth, we can not heal ourselves. So if you want to heal, there's a story that we learn from the elders that goes, the young warrior asked the elder, how can I help heal the world? And he said to start working on healing yourself. And that's how you can help heal. If you're good with yourself, you can be there for your brothers and sisters fully. But you got to be good with yourself first. And everything else is just a distraction. American mainstream distraction, colors, things moving. Us humans, we move and go every day, all day long, and the planets, they sit in the same spot and they grow slowly. So there's our balance right there. That's how we can slow down, by using plants. I have epilepsy, and I'm managing all my seizures off of all my pills finally, just using cannabis. And it's just an incredible blessing to have received my driver's license back, can help my wife drive our 8-year-old and our 4-year-old around again. I moved to Boulder 3.5 years ago. All the neurologists here, as soon as I would mention the C word in the office, they'd be like, shh, don't take my copay and my prescriptions, man. It's not cool. Said, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm going to go heal myself. I'll see you. I'll not see you again, Specific questions, yeah.
I'd love to add to that as well.
Go ahead.
Would you believe it? I forgot.
Okay, you can come back to it. So I mean, there is a lot of new concepts that are maybe being introduced to many of you, and that is the whole spiritual side of this, the whole indigenous side to this plant medicine, to psychedelics, and it's an important part of this conversation as we move forward, as lots of, the industry is developing, especially here in the U.S. and North America. When these bigger corporations are now, pharmaceutical corporations are really looking into it, it is already a multi-billion-dollar industry without even generating any revenue here in the United States. So how is that possible? Obviously, we're talking about IP, we're talking about, product development, things like that, and mostly financial strategy. Exposed to the more spiritual side of plant medicine, it's a real part of it that's very important to integrate as we move forward into the industry, because you do not want to lose the 1,000 years of tribes that have been using this already. There's already so much data. There's already so much many people that have been affected by these different treatments using psychedelics. So you have to look at it as, cannabis, CBD, it's definitely great for many different things. And many of you have had your own tremendous experiences through using cannabinoids for your body. You can definitely use it for anxiety, PTSD, all of that and above, but also with psychedelics, you really have to look at this as a strong option for helping with mental health. And with this whole pandemic that's happened, all the stress that's happened, it's something that affects, in your own families, maybe yourself. And so now is the right time. This is why this is emerging so fast, is because we are looking for those solutions, and it seems to be found within psychedelic therapies. The next topic I'd like to bring up is the blend of cannabinoids and psychedelics. And I think, Chip, you would have some great insight into that because of your company and some of the things that you do already with blending your natural homeopathic and different formulations that you actually have patented.
Figured out how to modulate the endocannabinoid system with non-cannabis plants, and we patented that, right? So things like turmeric, believe it or not. And again, this is all plant-based medicine, okay? So we're talking about psychedelics, but all of this is plant-based medicine.
Well, all plants have terpenes.
Yeah, all plants have terpenes. But something like, again, turmeric, it works for you. It's medically, So that's why curcumin is anti-inflammatory. So as you begin to understand natural products and how these natural products work, CBDs is just another natural product, and you blend these things together, you get incredible synergies and power. So if you guys know about cannabis and you kind of know about CBDs like to affect us globally, right? So if you're taking CBD tincture for your sore ankle, it's going to help your sore ankle, but it's not going to have the specificity to go at your ankle. When you begin to combine CBDs with natural products, like a milk thistle has specificity at your liver. When you begin to combine cannabinoids with things like psilocybin has specificity at your brain. So you're adding additional power. 1 and 1 is 3. They call it synergies. That's pharmacologically good. That's what you look for in drug development. You want those things that are going to sing together. All these plant-based medicines sing together. They synergize together.
I have a question just regarding the future, because I'm a forward thinker and a forward looker. So regarding the future, I see a race for all of these big companies, both publicly traded and private companies, a race to this IP and patenting things. So Chip, this question goes directly to you because you kind of this is your forte. A path of intersection in which big businesses and big pharma, if you will, go to all of these other therapies. Do you think that the common man, do you think that the entry-level business still has a chance, or do you think that big pharma is really just going to spend all their billions of dollars and just capitalize on everything?
So it depends on the states. Again, this is going to be done under state law first, right? So there's going to be state regulation that defines what this all looks like. It depends on how that regulation is set up. So that regulation really, if we're going to do this, we need to really thump the cannabis activist hive, and the cannabis activists really need to be the ones to kind of drag this across the line. Now, what we're in Oklahoma, and you guys know if you're from Texas, Oklahoma, we did things a little differently. It was a real we the people thing, right? So we have a lot of power in our majority, I would say, in Oklahoma, so we have ability to influence. You mentioned pharma, though, and this is the interesting thing about natural products and pharma, okay?
You can't patent it.
You can't patent it, right. So when you do drug development, if I'm a pharma company and I go out and find this vine in the Amazon from the Matsi tribe, has been doing this for a jillion years, I go find this vine and let's say it's got good pain properties, right? And I give it to some of my friends, they say, oh, it's great, works great for pain. If I'm gonna sell that as a drug, I've gotta do $20 million worth of stuff to be able to go sell that. But the thing that I want to do first is patent it so I can, guard my investment, recover some of my, work that I've got to put into it. In natural products, unless you get clever about how you patent things, and so we have kind of a clever patent in the endocannabinoid world, but unless you get clever about how you patent things, you can't go patent psilocin. It's a natural product.
You have to make a synthetic form of it.
You have to make a synthetic form, right? So the pharma is not so interested. They're really interested in psychedelics, but on pretty much all of the other plant-based medicines, they're not as interested because they can't make the big upside. They can't make all the money. They can't go synthesize the molecules and create the drugs like they normally do. But I think it's changing, and I think natural product companies that have some intellectual property are going to be in a good place.
They have made synthetic THC. It's called dronabinol. It's in a liquid form.
They can make
but
synthetic
it's not as
at all.
popular.
No,
who wants
it's
a
not.
synthetic form of a natural
Well,
product
We're already doing that with our food.
for 3 times the price?
So what happens when you make a synthetic product is right now you don't have cannabis anymore. You have something that affects directly your CB1 neuroreceptor with Marinol, but does that have the same benefit? I mean, does whole plant have more benefit than a single molecule? And I think
not
we'd all
full
agree.
spectrum. Doesn't have all the other cannabinoids in it, so you don't have those effects.
But to answer your question on a macro level, coming from an industry and business perspective, there is so much room for smaller businesses to come into the space. The pharmaceutical industry, I come from a background of pharmaceutical as well, helping build pharmaceutical companies and actually bridge them into the cannabinoid space. I've worked in Colombia the last 3 years working with a pharmaceutical company to do exactly that. So they are very much interested in psychedelics. You can patent your own unique custom, like your formulations, whatever you combine that with. You can patent on utility, a utility patent, which is the method in which you arrive to that. So there are ways for them to protect their intellectual property just as much as there are ways for you to protect your intellectual property. The thing is, right now, you have a wide open space to get into this segment of plant medicine. So there's a lot of opportunity. The industry needs really, really great products out there. Definitely worthwhile getting into. Like I said, it's already a multi-billion-dollar industry here in the States without ever producing not even 1 cent of revenue. So what does that tell you? That moved a lot faster than actual cannabis companies.
I have a question I like to tease out the answer to, and we have a great panel up here, and I want to propose it just really quickly. So, on the business perspective, on the macro scale level, the reason why big pharma has so much money is because they create customers. They don't essentially cure patients, right? So they create customers, and they're continuing to sell them the pills, and then get them to continue to pay the copays, et cetera, right? They create these good customers that are lifelong customers. My question is that when we have these psychedelic medicines integrated into, let's say, their business model or their operations, just like Jordan said, and Annie has hinted to a few times, there can and cannot be some instances where plant-based medicine or psychedelic medicine can be potentially a quote-unquote cure. Now, my question is if we all start to see a lot more efficacy when it comes to reaching a place of healing, what does that do to big pharma or the people operating and selling these drugs whenever people are reaching homeostasis a lot more often, psychologically, when we're not so dependent on these drugs, we're not so dependent on these pills every day, when maybe our healing regimen is once every 6 months in a ceremony as opposed to a pill every day. So healthcare itself could completely drastically change. So my question is to the panel, what does that do to the monetary incentive that a lot of big pharma has? What does that do to the health and wellness incentives for health and wellness driven entrepreneurs?
I'm gonna do you mind? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, let me say one thing really quick. For the pharmaceutical space, they operate and play in a completely different game than anybody. They have their own lane that they built that only their members can drive on. So it's not even we're a blip. We're a blip, but that blip is actually worth lots and lots of money. So because of the regulations, because of what they have set up for themselves and the level of which they have to operate, as Chip mentioned earlier, to get a drug out, to get a new drug out on a pharmaceutical level, you are spending $20 to $150 million just to do that. This is not this segment. So we're going to affect the amount of customers, but they have their own lane. They have very specific measures that they have to reach, data that they have to prove, efficacy that they have to prove. So it costs a lot of money for them to actually do that. So I want to separate those two lanes because there's still this whole other world out here where we can actually put out some incredible products, but we have to start with what Chip said, the regulations there. So go ahead,
So
panel.
Trey, that was a great question. You know why it was a great question?
What?
Because it's exactly what I was trying to cut him off to say earlier. This is what I've learned, what we've learned as a team, is that doctors are not there to heal you. They're there to continue to make money. There is no profit in a cure.
Well, it's sick care, not health care. It's a for-profit business. It's not. They aren't nonprofits.
Again, there's a place, gosh, guys, we're not going to do away with doctors and medicine and physicians and pharma. It ain't going to happen. So there is, again, if you go talk to an emergency room physician, okay, is there a place for pharma in an emergency room?
Essential.
I would hope so. I mean, if I get run over by a truck, I want you to intervene with everything that you got in you pharma-wise, right? So that's not going to go away. That, to me, emergency rooms is where pharma shines, trauma, acute care, right? Because you can get quick changes, you make things happen fast. But overall healthcare, again, that is going to change a lot, and that's where this is going.
Yeah.
So, I agree.
Yeah, when it comes to lifestyle conditions and diseases, those should have a different approach than first approach being pharmaceutical intervention. But to your question, if the whole world got on the self-healing wave and didn't need a lot of these pharmaceutical products, of course it would cripple the pharmaceutical industry, which is why psilocybin is still a Schedule I drug where you can't even study it, because it's in the same category as heroin and LSD having no medical benefit. So you aren't even legally allowed to study it yet. And the pharmaceutical company wants it to be that way so we don't take away from their profits and have people heal themselves with plants.
Real quick, here's the game, guys. So FDA, right, you don't really get big funds. You don't get to play in the big dollars, that pharma plays in unless you can get in the FDA. Again, how do you keep all this stuff away from physicians, away from smart people, away from researchers? Well, you never allow it in the FDA. And then it's out in our world, right? So it's out in anecdotal. You have to gain anecdotal evidence. You have to do your own research. You have to run your own studies. So it's not in the mainstream, like Patricia said yet, but it will be. This will, as there's going to be crossover pharma natural products companies. There already are. I mean, Priscilla's worked for one, but so those are going to become more and more prevalent. And as those become more and more prevalent, this will get more in the mainstream. But right now, it's a tremendous business opportunity, for a lot of people. And it's a tremendous healing opportunity. But it's got to be done right. It won't be done like cannabis. You won't have your grower growing willy-nilly and then dispensing this, through a dispensary. This will be way more tightly controlled than that, right? So probably dosed by a pharmacist would have to be, for the proper dosages and things, and really grown in a lab, type environment. So
I saw a hand raised in the back there.
We're running out of time for questions. Do we need questions?
Yeah, let's definitely open that. Yeah, we're. Oh, okay, all right. Could thank you. Here you go. Gentleman in the back, blue coat.
I wish we had more time to tease out a question.
I'm sorry, I don't really have a question, but I just would like to offer another perspective. And I think a lot of talk has been said about medicine. And obviously, just as a background, I'm an emergency physician, but I also have a practice treating addiction using particularly ketamine-assisted therapy. And so I'm actually quite familiar with the psychedelic field. And as a matter of fact, I am waiting with my breath held on the use of MDMA and psilocybin in this context.
Awesome.
Hats off to you, first of all. Hats off.
Awesome.
For a doctor, a physician to be working
I have
towards
some
treating
great
addiction
outcomes.
with
of this.
addiction. Wow, man. Yeah,
So
that's
I would
huge.
I would like to offer another perspective from the medical side. And I'm not saying that I'm in the majority medicine side, because I think some people call me on the fringe, or some people call me a little bit ahead of the curve. But at the end of the day, I think psychedelic therapy is on its way to reaching adoption by the general medical field. And
Yes, that's so good to hear. Yes.
Just as you mentioned the study out of Hopkins is actually
Yes.
Dr. Roland Griffith, it is becoming to the point in which we are at the tip of a psychiatric revolution.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
It all started with ketamine, and that's how I can do it, because that's the only legal drug I can get my hand on for this purpose. Wow. Not that necessarily it's the best drug, but it's the only legal drug without getting me into jail. Okay? And so, but still, it is a phenomenal drug. But what I want to make sure everybody understands, it is still considered a drug, even though it has some fantastic safety profile.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So on your ketamine, treatments, are you every 8 weeks? Like, what does your treatment process look like?
It's very similar to the psilocybin study, where you do it once with therapy. Again, this is another point I want to make, and that, so I don't get sidetracked, is because it is a medicine that you have to use it in context, meaning that just as mushrooms been used in a setting of a shaman. Remember, it is a therapeutic environment and an environment where you're trying to heal, right? You don't want to give this to a veteran suffering from PTSD while somebody's watching Saving Private Ryan. That will do more damage than good. So it is contextual.
Yeah,
you
good
have to
point.
put it in a situation that they can heal. And that's why this is a controlled substance. It's not, you cannot give it to anybody.
It's forcing you guys. It's forcing the medicine industry and the physicians to rethink about how they think about treatment and therapy.
Absolutely.
Instead of a one-time drug where you tell us about your experience at home, we've got to now guide you and help you through this time of an experience while you're under this drug.
It is not a one-time thing. You put it in a padded room and give you whatever and just walk away. Okay, it doesn't work that way.
So from what you just said, you said that your field is on the tip, or I'm saying on the horizon, on the tip of adopting. Are they on the tip of adopting the mindset that their practice has to change, where it has to be more inclusive as opposed to?
That's where you got to do things right, and that's why medicine have to do this right. And ketamine is the first of the drug to be used for this purpose. And it will set the example for everything else. And the way the ketamine is being used should be used. I said, no, it doesn't always do it, because you don't necessarily always have the best players doing the right things, right? It has to be used in a therapeutic context. Then you can use that mystical experience, or whatever the experience is, to resolve some of the underlying issues. And at least that's the gestalt, right? And then now, we have a new, hopefully, as I said, medicine will always, as I was telling you earlier, it takes 15 years for what you show in the lab bench to getting it in your doctor's office. 15 years.
And Doc, wouldn't you agree that it's a little different than cannabis, right? Because of and it's not the safety issues, but it's more the dosing and, like you just said, the environmental issues. But pharmacists, this is a pharmacist thing, don't you think?
Yeah. So again, these are all things that need to be done with science, right? Because you got to know, you got to source the right quality, the right grade. You got to know exactly what you're getting, right? in what formulation, and at what route of administration, right? IV is different than getting it by mouth or smoking it, right? And you got to know what exactly you're getting in terms of your dosage with your mushroom or what have you. So there's a lot of things that are being standardized. And that's what medicine and science is good for, is to standardize all these protocols so that you get the outcome that you're looking for. Because otherwise, you could potentially just go get mushrooms from whoever, go to the, a dark alley. You may not get what you want.
This guy's worked in black market before.
But I'm
It
not
needs to
saying
be
that's what happens.
standardized to the same consistency
Right.
and strength and dosage.
So we have about 9 minutes left. I wanted to thank you for giving that insight and sharing with the room what you're currently doing. You're definitely on the forefront of this, and we're hoping a lot more practitioners follow your lead.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Can I open it up for anyone else that has any questions while the mic is out there?
Make them fun.
What do you consider a microdose compared to a macrodose?
It's different for everybody.
Usually
Yeah.
less than a half a gram is
Yeah.
is a micro, and anything anywhere from 3 to 5 grams is a ceremonial dose, and a hero's dose is 7 grams.
But you gotta be very careful, because I think he's referring to psilocybin. If you microdose half a gram of LSD, that's a totally different thing.
My experience is it's just been different for the folks that.
Yeah, you may not be on Earth anymore physically.
Wouldn't you guys agree, though, that the sort of the line there is whether you hallucinate, so if you're taking a microdose, you're trying to stay below that line, where you're hallucinating.
Mood stabilizers. Yeah.
You're still functional.
Correct.
You're still functional. You could still maybe go to work.
I'm microing
do
right
your
now.
Things. Oh yes, in the back.
With DMT,
Oh. Yes. Probably all of it. That's one of the. Yeah.
Oh, could you repeat the
DMT.
question? Sorry.
No, I was just asking if you've done any studies with DMT or any research.
There's some studies out there, but they're not. There's way more studies on psilocybin and ayahuasca and things like that. So right now, there's some NDA, studies too.
There's also different types of DMT. I know you spoke about the toad. I have experience with the mimosa bark. That's how I ingest it. I've never done the toad. I don't know what would happen.
5-MeO DMT?
Yeah, 5-MeO. I just heard that. Yeah, got it. Yeah.
it's a very, very
But it is called the spirit molecule. In my experience, it's it's what I need in order to. I healed little Annie in the experiences, but DMT therapy has really skyrocketed me in several different areas. I mean, the word cure isn't scary. I cured my depression. I cured my anxiety. I met ego. I cured baby Annie. I think DMT, one term, it's so great that you would mention that. A term I heard today, maybe you guys can help me, is blasting off.
I said that.
You said that. Blasting, okay. Yeah, I would never touch DMT in a rec setting, ever. It's not something I would do personally. It's very ceremonial. It's very ritual for me, and I'm in there to do some real work. So, but blasting off, if you blast off, you just started. Like,
recreational therapy.
it just started.
You have no intention behind it.
No, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So
you,
I wouldn't.
You mentioned a good thing, intention.
Yeah, you have got to set your intentions.
With intention comes shadow work and integration. After
Correct.
intensive phase with the medicine, you go into shadow work and integration, which can last months, years.
Years, yeah.
And you want it to last that long. You want to ride that wave of healing, because in the intensive phase, you can forget that, but then over time it comes back through memories, slowly but surely. It takes a couple of days, a couple of weeks, a couple of months, but it's called safe container and shadow work and integration.
Mm-hmm. Integration. I cannot say that enough with using plant medicine. You know, you have to sit down and take a second. Journaling is huge. Make sure that you're writing it out. I like to record my sessions so that I can go back and take a look at anything that didn't register with me right away. And I've learned a lot of stuff in there.
There's also ego dissolution with psychedelic use, and that's part of how it connects in the brain. There's actually part of your brain that's your sense of self, and the connections are decreased to that part.
So this is a topic that, you know, has so many different facets to it. We could spend hours and hours talking about in each and every single facet to it. Oh, go ahead, sir.
Real quick question. Have you ever heard about any type of studies with, let's say, for example, autistic people and psychedelics?
There you go, Chip.
Of what?
Autism.
Oh, autism. Autism kind of works in a different way. Autism there's a very obvious things that are wrong in your endocannabinoid system with autistic people. I've never really seen any studies on it, but again, it's not going to necessarily help them. What's wrong with them is basically not enough CB1 action, so they don't have enough control kind of over their body, and you can fix that in a bunch of different ways. Psilocybin's not going to really help how they help them build more anandamide or help them with fall inhibition or any of that. Psilocybin is more going to help your brain, right? And again, this gets a little metaphysical and weird, but in my mind, you're this very intelligent vehicle sitting here, and you work through this endocannabinoid system as your master regulatory system, but you're also an incarnated spirit, right? So, and again, choose your paradigm, you know, whatever, but most of us believe, you know, that we have that divinity. So where do those things cross over? Where does your vehicle cross over into the spiritual? And part of that is your mind. And so, you know, a lot of this is kind of having to do with resetting those connections of how, you know, really our soul talks to our body, if you will. Okay.
I would love to add to that. Something happened to me so extraordinary in a guided DMT event that's so crazy that you would bring up autism. I don't really have any connections or anything with the autistic world, but something that specifically I learned in there, it said to me, I have never said this out loud, but I feel like I have to address it right now, is autism is like never having the veil. So if adults and parents don't really know how to handle a child that is constantly firing electricity all the time, I believe that autism is a immense state of awareness, and the kids it's just so much. It's so much that they just don't know how to deal with it. So I think first would be parents. Like, parents need to kind of understand that it's not a problem and stuff like that. And I would definitely get into some root medicine. I mean, I saw it from my guides that specifically brought autism to me. So I think that there may be something there. I think for sure. I'm not sure, but I felt like I needed to share that with you.
The reason why I mention it is there's a huge broad spectrum of autism. So
Yeah.
some of them, it might not be as impaired as others.
Correct.
Which they might need just some control, as you were talking about microdosing, for example.
Correct.
So that's what I just got me
My
tingling.
spirit feels like, I think.
Yeah, and you know, there's just I can't go to NIH.gov and find that research paper yet. So.
I don't have any
Yeah.
research done, but I have worked with two mothers personally with children that have epilepsy and autism. And I hooked them up with microdoses of mushroom and cannabis medicine, various forms. And the mothers come back every week. They're like, wow. They're like, we can't believe how awesome. It makes me tear up a little bit because you get to help people in this industry. It just makes my hair stand up, you know. I mean, I'm just so happy to be a part of it, you know.
Again, it's really about taking back control and trying to find some solutions. It's always better to err on the side of safety, always, especially if you're dealing with your children. But we're coming to the end of our panel discussion. I would like for each of you to please give your social media, Instagram handles, or website so people can write them down if they want to reach out to us. I know that's we don't have a PowerPoint up to kind of put that down, but please reach out with any questions because this is just, I wouldn't even say the tip of the iceberg. This is, this is not even an appetizer. We just got a lemon on a plate. Okay, so please go ahead if you guys, so I'll start with me. You could reach me at Priscilla, at original, that's ORIGINAL, breeders, BREEDERS, league, LEAGUE.com. That's my direct email.
Just come and find me at the event. I'm Trey. Yeah, no, I'm kind of independent from any company right now. Kind of hard to find on social media, but on LinkedIn you can find me. That's kind of where I'm trying to direct a lot of my energy as far as social media goes. So LinkedIn/Trey TREY. That's an E, not an A. And Tijerina is my last name. It's TIJERINA.
I have another discussion that I have to be part of, so I'm going to jet. But it was so nice spending time with all of you. Thank you so
Priscilla.
much. Thanks, guys.
Bye. Thanks. Are you done? Did you give him everything?
Did I give you my address and my
social? His blood type?
Okay. No, yeah, I'm done.
Okay, hi guys, I'm Annie Epley. I've got a digital business card, so I want to talk to you. So let's come talk, and then you can just take a picture of my card. It gives you all my information. But you can catch me at soiltosoul.me. Manifest at soiltosoul.me. Pretty easy. 4696. No, I'm joking.
And I'm Chip Paul. We have a couple of different companies, but New Pharma, GNUPHARMA, so chip at newpharma.com if you want to send me an email. If you're interested in getting involved in activism, either here or in Oklahoma, happy to kind of guide you through that. We have a booth here in our brand company. We have a brand called True Medics where we take our sort of science and tech and put it into a CBD brand, and we're here in a booth if you want to come by and say hi. We have samples.
Jordan Jade, my CBD company is Jade Healing Co. It's www.jadehealing.co or on Instagram, Jade Healing Co. Check me out. Or Jordan, JOURDAN at jadehealing.co. Email me or just come see me.
So I have a booth out there in the middle. It's called Right Mind. Really nice. We are neighbors. Beautiful, colorful mandala.
2 for 1.
My email is Charlie CHARLIE, and then my last name URQUHART at
that's exotic.
.com. It's a Scottish clan name.
Okay.
Yeah. The ruins of the 12th century Urquhart Castle sit on Stone Point in Inverness, Scotland, overlooking Loch Ness.
One thing I want to say though before we get out of here, if you guys have not experimented with psilocybin therapy, I highly recommend it. Don't be scared because it's illegal. So is cannabis. It never should have been illegal. It never should have been villainized, and is very therapeutic and beneficial for all mental health reasons.
Do you want to finish giving
I also have sample bottles to give away.
I thought you were done. I'm sorry.
You're okay, Jordan. It's okay. It's okay.
I thought you were
All the patience in the world.
You said your last name, so I thought you were done.
No. So right-mind.com.
Annie, I love you.
But come by and get samples from me and my neighbor Chip here.
All right.
Thank you guys for spending time, making time, and sharing space with us. We appreciate all you guys.
Yes, thank you.